Fighting Tigers basketball, we're here. I'm changing it up this week. I did a little bit of self-scouting, and I didn't like the way the basketball week, I love basketball too much. I wanted to do something a little bit different. So Chance is going to let me run with this a little bit. We'll see how this goes, but I think this will be a fun new segment that we're going to do for basketball. And like I said, we'll still hunker down the SEC and things like that when the tournament comes around. But this is Burgin's Top 5. So we're going to do 5 subjects every week. And I'm going to tell you something that's kind of relevant in the basketball world. And then we're going to talk about some things from the past and kind of give you our little top 5 or my top 5 of all time. So first, we're going to start out with the big stories of the week. Cooper Flagg, 42 points, ACC freshman record. What an incredible performance. We know we saw the big dunk we talked about last week. Cooper's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. But it had me thinking, Cooper Flagg, great Duke player. He's too nice of a Duke player. Who were the top 5 Duke villains of all time? So we're going to start with number 5, Steve Wojciechowski. I loved Wojo back in the day. I used to slap the floor when I would play defense at the YMCA. But this guy right here was a terror to all teams. And everybody didn't like him because he was a fierce, fierce competitor. Number 4, Shane Battier. The captain, the leader of the Dukies. This guy was everything that epitomized Duke. Smart. He was just all Duke all the time. But he was just too good. And he was just too smart. And he just, I just didn't like him. And I don't think anybody liked Shane, but Shane ended up being a great pro, won a title with the Miami Heat, but Shane Battier with number 4. Number 3, Grayson Allen. Who didn't like Grayson Allen? Whether he was tripping you on the court, whether he was doing dumb stuff, getting technical fouls, undercutting somebody while they were trying to dunk, that guy was horrible, and nobody liked him, and he was the epitome. He could have been number 1, but he wasn't number 1 because of these 2 guys right here. Number 2, Christian Laettner, the godfather of the hatred of the Duke Blue Devils. From the shot he hit against Kentucky to take Duke to the Final Four, whatever you want to call it, I hate Christian Laettner. There was a segment on it on ESPN. I don't personally hate Christian Laettner, but everybody in the world of basketball didn't like. He was just too good, and he carried Duke, and it wasn't the time with Coach K and all that. Just nobody liked him. Number 1, and my choice may be different than others, J.J. Redick. When JJ was playing for Duke, his cockiness, his arrogance, how good he was, throwing up all the time when he was making 3 and just running his mouth, people did not like JJ. They used to say F you JJ when he'd shoot free throws. This guy just wasn't liked at all. And that's why I got him at my number 1. But what a list that is for the top 5 worst Dukies. Honorable mention would be Greg Paulus. That guy right there never beat North Carolina at home while he played for Duke, but he just had that thing like you just didn't like it. Nobody liked Greg Paulus. He was a good player, didn't really play much. I don't even think he had a pro career, but he was kind of on the level of Steve Wojciechowski. But yeah, nobody liked Greg Paulus. So, all right, top 5, number 2. All right, Auburn is number 1 in basketball right now. It's the first time since 2021-2022, and Johnny Broome is the big reason why. Had me thinking, where does Johnny rank in the top 5 Auburn basketball players of all time? So I'll give you my list, and we'll start with Johnny at number 5. This guy's incredible. The double-double machine, carried Auburn to number 1 in the rankings. Hopefully he gets healthy. Auburn proved last week they can win without him, but he would be my number 5 on the best Auburn players of all time. Number 4, Chris Porter. You remember the front page of the magazine, the great team, Mamadou Njai, Scotty Polson, all these great players that they had that year. Damian Fishback's another one. What a great team that was. I thought that team was going to win the national championship with Cliff Ellis as the head coach. And they were the number 1 seed, and they lost to an Ohio State team with Scooney Penn and Michael Redd. But Chris Porter was an unbelievable high flyer, Sean Kemp-esque type player. Number 3, Marquise Daniels. People kind of forget about Marquise. He took them on that Elite 8 run when he was playing for them. Marquise had a great pro career. He was an unbelievable player for Auburn, and I really like Marquise's game, and I kind of want to undershadow a great player. The top 2 are pretty much, I'm going to say everybody's going to have these in his top 2. Number 2, Chuck Person. What an unbelievable career he had at Auburn. Just a great player, had a great NBA career, part of the Great Person family. Chuck's easily number 2, and number 1, you know it, Chuck Charles Barkley. This guy to this day is still having a huge impact on NBA basketball from Leeds, Alabama. Shout out to Jeremiah, who's the head basketball coach at Leeds. Chuck Charles whatever you want to call him. This is one of my favorite players of all time. Number one greatest Auburn basketball player, probably consensus with everybody else. Incredible NBA career, MVP, lost to Jordan in the finals, obviously, but Charles is the stamp of Auburn basketball, and to this day still is a beloved major part of the program. And you got to love a guy like that who becomes as popular as Charles, still involved with the program like he is. So, all right, number 3, top 5, Gators. Gators dominated Tennessee and beat them by 30 points. Now, they did lose to Missouri at home a couple nights ago, and that kind of reminded me of these great Gator teams that were really good, but they would kind of have these hiccups and lose, and it may not be the way they play in the tournament, but you can't have that hiccup in the tournament. So it had me thinking, where is this Gators team rank? They're a top 5 team in the country. Where do they rank all time in Florida Gator lore? They're not in the top 5. Here is my top 5 of Florida Gator basketball team. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Auburn, my dark horse in that, and that I didn't think about was anybody on that Final Four team. Isaac Okoro, Bryce Brown, any of those guys were really, really good players for Auburn. That Final Four team in general was my top 5 for me. Obviously, they made the Final Four. But anyways, back to the Gators. Number 5, 2016-2017 team. Undefeated. Went to the Elite Eight. Mike White's probably best team at Florida. That team was a very good team, and they probably should have made the Final Four. They lost to a scrappy South Carolina team. I didn't like that game at all, and Florida should have made the Final Four. Probably my most disappointing loss in Gator history. Number 4, the 2013-2014 team with Billy Donovan. Undefeated in SEC play. Not many teams have ever gone undefeated in SEC play. This team did. They lost in the Final Four to UConn, who eventually went on to win the national championship. That was maybe another one of the disappointing losses. Number 3, 1999-2000 Florida Gator team. Mike Miller, Udonis Haslam. I remember dogpiling on my floor when they beat Butler in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They went to the national championship game. They lose the national championship game, but what a team. That was Billy's first big run in the tournament. What a team that was. Number 2 and number 1 are pretty easy. Number 2, the 05-06 Gator team, first national championship team, the rise of Joakim Noah, Corey Brewer, Al Horford. Number 1, the 06-07 Gator team, the back-to-back national champion. This team was more veteran. They're a year more of experience, all the expectations. Chris Richard was a big 6 man, I think better than Adrian Moss. That's why I kind of give this team the upper hand. But this team right here is the epitome of college basketball, back-to-back with all the pressure, and the last team to go back-to-back in national champions. My special shout-out would be the 93-94 Gator team. They made the Final Four under Lon Kruger. That was probably the first Final Four they had. So that was probably the other shout-out for me for that one. Number 4, this week, Jamal Mashburn Jr., this is a national story right here, beat Memphis. Memphis has had some incredible wins this year. They beat UConn. They beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. This is a great team. And to lose to Temple, how did they lose to Temple? Jamal Mashburn Jr. You remember the name Jamal Mashburn? Great NBA player, great college player. And it had me thinking, this list is going to be very different than maybe an older guy's list or a younger guy's list. But favorite college basketball players that really weren't these special pro players, but guys you remembered. And here's my list of those 5 guys. You all remember them. Number 5 is going to be Mateen Cleaves. 1999-2000 national championship. Jeremiah Millington, probably one of his favorite players. But Mateen Cleaves, Michigan State. This guy just got in your face, but he was a leader. He was a captain. Played along Morris Peterson, who had a great NBA career. But this guy was the epitome of college basketball, one of the best college basketball players of all time. Number 4, Scoonie Penn. Everybody remembers Michael Redd, Milwaukee Buck great. Scoonie was the point guard that led the charge for that Ohio State team that did beat Chris Porter and Auburn that year. Number 3, Khalid El-Amin. You remember the long shorts. You remember him playing along Rip Hamilton for UConn. Winning the national championship in 1999. Khalid El-Amin was it, man. That guy was an unbelievable passer, great player, was a fun player to watch. Number 2, Robert Tractor Traylor. Michigan. Everybody remembers the Tractor. This guy was big, lived in the paint, unbelievable player. I loved watching the Tractor play. Probably one of my favorite players of all time. And number 1, by far, the best, Ed Cota, North Carolina. When number 5 was playing for North Carolina, dishing it out to Vince Carter, Forte, you name it who was on those teams. Antawn Jamison, this guy was the epitome of cool, the epitome of college basketball. I think even LeBron has given him a shout out at one point. This guy was college basketball. Again, a lot of these guys didn't have pro careers, but they were great college basketball players, kind of like a Tim Tebow was for college football. This was college basketball, and I wanted to, I know it's not an SEC kind of thing, but again, this is college basketball and gearing up to who are going to be these guys this year to make a run and really become a household name in college basketball. And last, I couldn't go without mentioning Alabama, since we are Roll Tide and we are on the Tide and Tigers. Alabama, great year so far. They did get beat by Ole Miss this week, but who are Mark Sears? Came back for his senior year, going to have a big weekend at Kentucky. He's kind of not had the year that I think he's wanted to have. I think that's going to change. But Mark Sears is such an unbelievable point guard. But who are the top 5 point guards all time in Alabama history? We'll start. Number 5, Trevor Relaford. This is sooner rather than later. He was a great point guard, led a lot of good teams for Alabama. To me, he was very skilled passing and shooting the ball. He would be my number 5. Number 4 is Mark Sears. The lefty took him to the first Final Four in Bama history. I think he's got some chances to move up in this list, but right now I got him at number 4. Needs to have a big rest of the season. Number 3, Ronald Steele. John Carroll alumni, back-to-back state champion. Everybody remembers Steele. Some incredible teams he had with Mark Godfrey. Ronald was an unbelievable player. If he just didn't have bad knees, this guy could have been a great pro player. He's number 3 on my list. Number 2, Mo Williams. The great Cleveland Cavalier, NBA champion, played alongside LeBron, was the epitome of Cleveland Cavalier basketball, but he was an unbelievable player for Alabama and one of the most talented scoring point guards you'll ever find. Number 1, Colin Sexton. This guy at one point played 2-on-5 against a team and almost won the game. Colin had so many big moments for Alabama. He is a great pro player. They call him the Bull for a reason. This guy is like a bull in a china shop, but by far the most talented player and most talented point guard Alabama has. Shout out on this one would be Antoine Petway was not on the list. I love Petway. Had the big shot against Florida to win the SEC championship game. And then my other one for the college basketball players was Miles Simon for Arizona. I know everybody remembers Miles Simon winning that national championship, but he played along Richard Jefferson and Gilbert Arenas, a lot of these players. So again, a lot of those players I named were not pro players, but they played with pro players. But they were the reason why some of these guys were so good because of the way they played. So that's Burgin's top 5. Five segments, 5 top 5s. We'll try to do this every week, and we'll see how the producer likes it. But here we are, college basketball, Tide and Tigers.